Hi, welcome to Who's Big Bill Talking To? I'm Big Bill, your host for tonight. It's April 20th, 2022, and we're back with Who's Big Bill Talking To. We have a special guest tonight with us, Mike Dettinger, and he'll be on in a few minutes. But just wanted to get you guys caught up into what we're doing here at the Model Railroading Live. Welcome, John Train BFGR and John Banasek and Wigwag Workshop. How you doing? Guys are just stepping in, so I'll give you a few minutes to get comfortable. Pull up your chair, get a nice beverage if you so desire, and it says here on my screen, Who's Big Bill Talking To is live. That's what we are. We're live. So I hope everybody's week was good. Hello, Wigwag. I hope everybody's week was good. Ours was pretty good. It was an off week. My wife was off from school, and she was home. And we just got finished renovating the last piece of molding was put down this afternoon, which was a good thing. Dan's Model Railroad Journey is in the house. Hi. And so that was that. And now we're just taking it all in, all the new stuff we're taking in. So it's been pretty good. I'm usually wearing my MRL shirt, but today I decided to put on my New York Strong shirt. Everything that's going on here, thought I'd put on my New York Strong shirt. Good news is the Mets are 9-3. I know they always start off that way in the beginning of the season, but they look good. Max Scherzer was pitching last night against San Francisco, and he had 10 Ks, which is a good thing. And who's in the house now? Human City Junction is in the house. Heath, how are you today? Who's Big Bill Talking To? Is Mr. Hale on again tonight? No, he's not. We have our special guest, Mike Dettinger. But before we get to Mike, let me let you know that tomorrow night, Johnny's Train Talk Show will be on at 9 p.m. Thursday, the 21st. And that you too, like I always say, every week, weekend and week out when we're on the show, that you guys can come in, be a part of it, and join in, bring and brag, talk about model railroading, or anything that's on your mind with model railroading. Any problems, any concerns, any issues, or just want to bring and brag again. Not a problemo. Anyway, tonight's show is, and also we have the Discord, discord.com. That's where after show, usually after the 10 o'clock, 10 at night, the guys get on video and they talk amongst themselves and share things, what they're doing and stuff. It's kind of like an impromptu kind of thing. So you can go to discord.com, look under Model Railroading Live, and stuff like that if you guys are interested in it. So it's discord.com, Model Railroading Live. Mojave, Tina's in the house. Yeah, Big Bill on the air. Now that is how you start a Wednesday night off in the studio. Yep. Thank you, Tina. Greatly appreciate that. It's hump day today, Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday. Then the weekend's just around the clubhouse turn. So tonight's show is going to be pretty good, I think. We got Mike Dettinger on the show. And he's, you know what? Let's just bring Mike Dettinger in. Let's just bring him in.
Oh, my gosh. What an introduction, Bill.
Well, I what was it? I was going to do this whole blow up on you, this whole thing. But I just said, what the heck? Bring him in.
That's it. Why not? Just have some fun with it. Definitely.
Yeah. Definitely. Mike Dettinger, just so you guys know, Mike Dettinger has been a long time contributor to model railroading when we were YouTube model builders back in the day. Him and Barry Roger were part of the team. And then Mike and Barry Roger are the guys that do the Amherst Clinic now up in Amherst on Thursday and Friday. I would suggest if you guys ever decide you want to go to Amherst, it would behoove you to go for the clinic for Thursday and Friday.
It's the best deal in model railroading, for like just over $100 now. They just raised it after, so many years of being stuck at $99. You get 2 lunches, you get 2 breakfasts, you get a whole lot of fun. 2 days of model building and tickets to the show. The best deal in model railroading.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think the price now is like 125, and
It just
Mike
went up.
says, it's in a really nice, classy hotel. So you got the conference rooms that they set up for the model clinics, and you get to do 2 days of model clinics. It's breakfast and lunch is included. Dinner you're on your own, but there's plenty of places to stuff like that.
And the best part, Bill, is I bring in some vendors so that money doesn't burn a hole in your pocket. You can spend it before the show.
Yeah, you're right. That was the other thing we saw. That was the other thing you guys did. You brought the vendors in during the clinic time, and they gave a substantial discount on their product. So that was another good thing. So it's good. But we have Mike Dettinger, and Mike Dettinger, in and of himself, is Mike and I, after a long period of not talking, just simply not had nothing to do personally. It just out of touch, out of mind. So I reached out to him, and we started talking about model railroading, and we started talking about life in general. And he was talking about his T-track, and we were doing. I said, "Hey, how would you like to be on the show?" So he was like, "Yeah, I'd love to." Let's see. Do I'm just trying to clarify some things. Are saying, do I have a? Can you ask Wig one? Can you ask that again? I'm confused. I Do you have an after show on your Discord after your live streaming? Wig Wong Workshop. Yes, it's on Discord, discord.com, and stuff like that. I'm not really too sure about it. Some of the guys that do it, Robert Alleman and Andy, they're the guys that are the watchmen of this. So I think you go to discord.com, look under Model Railroading Live, and you can join it. Hello, Bill, Mike, Johnny, and all watching today from Boston. Visiting the grandkids. Hey, good for you, Dwight. Boston's all right.
Boston's good, man. Good baked beans.
Yeah. Yeah. Human City Junction says to Wigwam, no, just chatting, no after show. I usually try to wind down as I have been getting up earlier. Yeah. It's a good place to go. You don't have to do it every night. Discord is not every night. You can just periodically check in with everybody, and stuff like that. But getting back to Mike. So, Mike, what have you been up to?
No good, the usual. Oh. But now, basically, like you said, Bill, there's a lot of life coming in between our relationship, talking to each other. And stuff, and keep us from talking about model railroading. I just actually went back into the workforce again.
Yeah, well, I understand.
And screaming, but my wife's happy. So,
well, I understand the restraining order is now lifted, so we can talk freely.
That's well, I don't think we ever had a restraining. That's me and Barry that have.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Barry and I.
Yeah, Dwight at Northern Star says, "Hey, Bill, the Twins beat Boston." Hey, Dwight, the New York Mets 9-3, brother, beat San Fran last night. Doubleheader, twin night doubleheader last night. New York, let's go Mets. So sorry, Mike, got caught up.
Oh, no worries, man. I'll tell you.
So me and you got back together and we started talking, and the topic came on to T-track and to modules.
Oh, definitely. And the one thing about T-track too, it's kind of misunderstood. So I brought a lot of materials for the show tonight to kind of go through a little bit of the history and the prehistory of T-track too, just how we got to this point, looking at some of the other modular standards and stuff. So we'll go through that as well. But I think I want to lead off with this little video here. Let's see if we can get this going here right now.
Yeah, we got a little bit of John Arthur. No, you're not in the wrong room, John. You come. The Braves come to Citi Field next month.
Good. So yeah, we'll get this video running here. It's just a short video of me setting up a little T-track on the table. Just a handful of modules as we go through it.
Yeah, this is very interesting.
And you might notice there's a little critter running around. Don't worry, it's not a mouse. It's a furry. It's one of my daughter's little fur monsters who decided to photobomb my little filming session. So, but essentially the video is 30 seconds. In real life, it takes about 5 minutes to have that set up. So it's really simple. It's portable. From that perspective, it's definitely a great modular standard.
What, early, I know that you're part of the down in what's the model railroading group that you guys, you and Barry, the club?
We're part of the Strasburg Railroad that we have too, and that kind of broke off. So I just do more T-track now too, but also I'm also with the Philly NMRA, so I actually do all the clinics for them as well. So you'll see that I have a lot of clinics, a lot of material to go through. So I draw on a lot of materials. But when I was in Texas, when I first got into T-track, I went down to Texas, and before I went down to Texas, I did my research. I'm like thinking, all right, I'm moving cold. I don't know anybody in Texas.
Right.
So I'm in Pennsylvania. I lived there pretty much for 40 some years in Pennsylvania. That's all I know. Everybody's up here. So I go down there. I said, I better find some good, healthy hobby to get involved in before I go down there, or else I'll just go off the rails and just, I'll get lost. So I did my research online, and there was a bunch of different. Actually, in North Texas, they have a great website with all the different clubs there as well, laid out. It's pretty much a good template you could use for anywhere. All the different clubs, all different scales, and they had little blurbs about each of their clubs. But the one that kind of caught my attention, even though I wasn't an N scale, I was basically HO at the time, maybe ON 30-ish, but I didn't really want to go smaller than HO. HO was kind of like my lower limit, if you will.
Yeah.
But the one that really caught my attention was the North Texas T-Track Club. And I'm actually wearing their shirt today, too. So while we're showing off shirts, I'm showing off my old North Texas shirt.
Okay.
So, shout out to the whole gang down there in North Texas. I did my research. I thought this really sounds like a fun idea. I didn't know really that much about it. I heard of T-Track before. And, there's a lot of confusion about T-Track, too, because there's a T scale, and there's, TT scale, and then there's T-Track, and then there's, is it just N scale? No. So basically, hopefully by the time we're done going through the materials here, and I'm done my little presentation, you'll have a better understanding of what T-Track's all about, and maybe even think about how you can incorporate that in your own model, because it gives you a lot of flexibility to do what you want. I mean, one of the things that really kind of attracted me to the North Texas Club was the fact that I wasn't confined to a specific error or even a specific scenery type or anything. The club, when I got down there, they had modules from a Pennsylvania Dutch barn to Cadillac Ranch. Somebody created the graveyard scene from Michael Jackson's Thriller video.
Right.
He had Thriller playing all the time, which was really cool the first 5 minutes, and then it got really old really quick. But it was still a well done module.
Right.
And the best part was that there was at least 3 Godzilla modules there, 3 models featuring Godzilla. I said, this is the club for me,
because it's different.
All the boxes.
Right, it's different. It's thinking outside the box and stuff like that. But prior to you moving to North Texas, you had done a clinic in Amherst on T-Track. Is that?
Actually, I was coming back from Texas when I did those clinics. So basically, okay. I learned that. That was the year I came back
right,
to PA.
Right.
Yeah.
So I remember you guys were doing the T-Track, and it was like you were like you built like. What, 40 of them?
Yeah, I built 40 modules, and it was insane doing 40 modules, but it was a really it was good though. I mean, it was a good experience. It was all scrap lumber out of the yard, because the whole idea with T-Track is you can buy the kits, you can build the kits, and maybe it makes sense when you first start to get a kit and try the kit to see how they go together. But you can use scrap wood. I was using old 1x3s that I had laying around. Just cut them up, make a little box, put a lid on it, and essentially got a module ready to go.
So just for some that may not know what T-Track is, and just basically give us an update on what and how it would be constructed and what it is all about.
Okay, so essentially, T-Track, and again, there's different scales, but the one that's most practiced now is an N scale. So it's T-Track N scale. You start with a 1 square foot module. Essentially, it's technically 12 1/8 wide by 14 inches deep max, although the depth can be variable. You can have them as short as 5 1/4 inches deep, which would be a totally reversible module. And you are basically only limited by where the track has to be at the interface. So for a single module, you'll have the track running about 1.5 inches setback from the front of the module. And then so you have basically that first 1.5 inches to deal with, and then you have everything on the other side of the track to deal with. Other than that, that's the only really hard, fast rule is the fact that it has to, you can work around. The track has to be there. That's the only real rule. It's basically a double track main.
I have a question from Human City Junction. He wants to know, what do you think about T-Track and N-Track combining under the name N-Rail?
I haven't given it much thought, I'll be honest with you. It's just, no, I really haven't really gave that any thought at all, in all honesty. I'm just at this point thinking that, all right, we got to get the word out here that T-Track exists. We got to get people knowing T-Track and stuff like that too. I really haven't done N-Track at all. I mean, I like the idea. A lot of people who practice T-Track also practice N-Track, or they came from the N-Track world. So, I mean, I don't know.
Isn't it just a basic name change? It's you do.
It could be more than that too. It's always like, oh well, it's name brand recognition. You're making it. Us YouTubers. We're all about the brand. I mean, so it's like, all right, well, are we changing the brand? Will the brand be diluted with this change? Will T-Track be lost in the shuffle? I mean, you have to weigh all those issues. There's a lot of issues there, but I think my thought is that there's always going to be people who practice T-Track exclusively. There's always going to be people who do N-Track exclusively, and there's going to be a subset who do both. And there's probably going to be a subset of people that do neither. It's just a group. So,
would you say this is more aligned to the armchair modeler?
I would say it would encourage the armchair modeler. It would give the armchair modeler less of an excuse to stay an armchair modeler. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It basically lowers the bar of entry. If we look at N-Track too, just talk about the N-Track standard. You make a nice little 2 foot by 4 foot module, and you build the legs, and you build the backdrop, and you put your tracks on, and you decorate it. There's a lot of work there in doing that versus T-Track, where it's not 8 square feet, it's 1 square foot. So first of all, it's a lot smaller, it's a lot more portable. The second thing is you don't even have to worry about building legs, right? Because it sits on a table. That's the T in T-Track is tabletop, tabletop. T-Track.
What Robert Holman asks, what exactly is T-Track?
Well, that's a great question, and we probably it.
And just before you answer that, someone asked, is there G scale T-Track? I don't think so.
I'm not sure the formal specs cover that. I know there's formal specs for up to O, but that's a real interesting thought. T-Track too, just to sit on there. But yeah, as we go through some of these slide decks, you'll see some of the history behind it too, and you can see that some of the techniques that you use for T-Track could be used for T-scale as well, or G-gauge. So, all right, so why don't we just get moving at one? Take a look at this.
Sure.
Slide set right here.
Sure.
And we'll just talk about this one. So, I mean, all right. So we'll talk about scales first. All right. This is stuff we all know. N scale is 1/160. HO is 1/87. Blah blah blah. And depending on where you are, it could be different. Like in Japan, if you're modeling anything but bullet trains, it's actually 1/150. But you know, in Britain, N scale is actually 1/148. But you know, it's all roughly the same size.
Right.
Okay. So now, if you take a look at N gauge, now this is the difference between N scale and N gauge. N gauge track is always 9 millimeters between the rail. It doesn't matter what scale you use with that track. It is basically 9 millimeters between the rails. And if you look at all the different possibilities with the 9 millimeter track, you can have, like I said earlier, in standard gauge, you would have North American prototypes at 1/160, Japanese prototypes at 1/150, UK 1/148. But then you get into the narrow gauge, where you have just a plethora of different narrow gauges as well. For example, TT scale, you have TTN3 using 9 millimeter track. For HO, you would have HON30. For 00 scale, it would be 009 in the UK prototypes, SN2, ON18, 09 if you're in the UK, G9, which is a very interesting scale. It's 9-inch gauge track in G. And it also will be a 4.5-inch gauge if you model 1/12, which is dollhouse size. And as a bonus, and I don't know if you can see it real well because it looks like the words might have munged this a little bit, but you also have a broad scale option if you're modeling in Z scale. That's 1/220. You can model Russian prototypes 6.5 foot 6.5 foot broad gauge, which is very, very interesting. So you can really be kind of esoteric with different gauges. So in essence, you could take the T-track modules in N scale. They designed for N scale track, right? The N gauge track.
Right.
I'm trying to be precise and I'm messing up, but you got the N gauge track, the T-track modules for that, but you don't have to build the modules to N scale. You can use any of these other scales. You could make it HON30, for example, because it's the correct gauge for that. So just because you participate in T-track doesn't mean that you have to adhere to even the rules of scale. You can actually introduce an HO scale. You can have HON30 line, et cetera, et cetera. Now, there are HO specifications for standard gauge, the 16.5 millimeter gauge track as well. And it's a little bit bigger than the N gauge versions. It would be roughly a 20 inch by 20 inch module instead of your 1 square foot.
Right.
But those things do exist. And also another popular T-track scale is gauge is Z. The Z scale, which is actually less than the square foot. So there's a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of opportunities to really do, more. There's more you can do on that 1 square foot of real estate that you build for yourself than you realize.
Right. I have a question from Human City Junction.
Mm-hmm.
Heath wants to know, what do you think about the people that say T-track is not prototypical, usually coming from the Fremo guys?
That is a real good question too. And actually, we can actually drop this slide right now. So you can see Bill and my smiling face. There we go. All right. So it's funny you should mention that too, because I'm kind of like the anti-prototype guy. I run all sorts of goofy trains. If you visit my YouTube channel, you can see some of the craziness that I run.
What is the name of your YouTube channel, Mike?
Oh, it's DCC Reanimator. So it's DCC reanimator, like the old movies.
Right.
And there's articles on how to put DCC and stuff, obviously, but even more, there's more of the Japanese shorty trains that I run a lot of. So it's actually great. We'd love to have you all visit it. But what I do is I like the juxtaposition of the toy train looking shorties on prototypical scenery. So my modules are very prototypical looking. So for example, I got one right here. Let me just see if I can get this here without destroying the whole studio. All right, we'll just bring this out here. And we'll just put that there so you can take a look at that. And you can see it's a Craftsman kit on here. You have water scene, and it's fairly prototypical. I mean, I wouldn't feel bad entering this into like a fine scale show, in all honesty. It would be good for one of their 1 square foot categories. So the thing is with T-Track, I mean, you're always going to have someone who has Godzilla. You're always going to have someone that's going to have Legos on their T-Track modules. But then you're always going to have someone who has an exact replica of downtown Dallas. I mean, some of the guys down there, they had the Legacy Tower down there, and the Trinity River Bridge, and all sorts of interesting. The Cadillac Ranch, that looked pretty good. I went somewhere, somebody had a model of Stonehenge. The one thing that I think T-Track offers model railroaders is the opportunity to try new and different things and to explore different areas. I mean, one of the things that Bill and I talk about a lot is that, the preconceived notion is, I have to model the Pennsylvania Railroad, July the 11th, 1956, right? That's it. And if it doesn't fit in that time frame, I can't build it. I can't have it on layout. It just doesn't work. With T-Track, I can do is whatever I want. I can do windmills of Amsterdam, or I could do, like I said, that car float that I just showed you, or a cornfield with a spaceship. It doesn't really matter what I do, and I can put it together. And if I get tired of it or I want to change it, I can pull the module out and put a new module into place, and it takes literally minutes to do.
Right.
So, I mean, there's always going to be the prototype police. You just kind of have to let that run off your back and just say, hey, look, I'm just doing what I enjoy. And at the end of the day, I will guarantee that more people come to visit the T-Track layout than any other layout at the show.
Right. And Robert Holman says, so basically what it is like a diorama?
You can look at it that way. Yeah, it's a diorama. It's a vignette, or it can be a complete layout. It's as much or as little of a train layout as you want, in all honesty. It's up to the individuals.
Yeah. Dan's Model Railroading Journey says it doesn't have to be a diorama, but generally it is when you have multiple modelers.
Mm-hmm. It can be. I mean, even with the same modeler, I mean, when I take these out to for the NMRA, we go out and we do some outreach at different train shows like Greenberg's, and I'll take out the T-Track. I'll take out like 6 or 7 modules there and have some trains running around, because if you don't have trains running, nobody comes to your table. They'll just keep on wandering by. But if they see something moving, that's like, oh wow, and they get sucked in. Of course, when I run, it's pretty colorful too. I got this purple and white and green and neon green bullet train that runs around. It just sucks people right in. And I basically have a horseshoe curve model, and then I had Tokyo, the next module up, and then I had a cornfield with a flying saucer in it, and it was just like you can't really do that anywhere else. Just you have these different vignettes, and people can either view them together as a layout or separately as each vignette. So
and then the fact of the matter that it's a one, what is it, 1 by 1?
1 square foot roughly. Yeah, it's a little bit bigger, but yeah, we'll call it 1 square foot.
Right. Hold on.
Unlimited, our most affordable unlimited plan.
I hit something I shouldn't have hit.
Now starting at just
Let me
$20
see
a
what I
month for
got
life.
here.
And for a limited time, save up to $500 when you join or add a line.
No, I don't want
Sign
that.
up today.
What do I want? I want this one. Yeah, that's the one I want. Then I want to come back to this. What am I doing? Did I go out?
This business is tough. Trust me, as a former dealer, I've been there.
Where'd you go? I guess it's just me now. Anyway, we'll give Bill a second or two to get back. But
it's table dance time, Mike.
There you go.
He had to turn the computer off just to get that one thing shut down.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
So we'll just keep on. I mean,
So I guess we'll go back and we'll run that next slideshow.
you want to go ahead and start on that last slide?
While he's getting back on, I can do that. The slideshow.
All right, we'll do that. There you go.
All right. Okay. All right. So, I put this presentation together about the rail joiner that started a revolution, and it's basically the story of T-Track. Somebody's calling.
Right.
Oh, no. All right. So anyway, so I gave this presentation before, but it's pretty interesting. I'll go through it pretty quickly as well. Okay, so essentially, we'll just pass this slide here too. As model railroaders, we are just charged with modeling a transportation system at a reduced scale. You look at Wikipedia, that is the definition of what we do as model railroaders. It's basically comprised of the infrastructure that you require to operate rolling stock. It doesn't say whether it's, fine scale models or toy trains. It just is a transportation system.
Hey, I'm back. I hit the wrong button.
All right. Yeah, I started into the slides while you're away, Bill.
Go for it, man. Go for it.
Right.
I love it. Go for it. I'm just a talking head. I don't know what I'm doing anyway.
Well, at least you know to hang up on those crazy calls, right? So anyway, so essentially, we all have some kind of preconceived notion of what a model railroad should be, and a lot of the shots that you're seeing here too are kind of like, at least from my childhood, of what I imagined what a model railroad should be.
Mike, just so you know, there's a spinning circle there, to which Tina said that's not a spinning wheel; it's a T-track running around.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we can't see.
All right. Is that catching up? Yeah, it looks like it's here for me. You see that one? No.
No, nothing yet.
Jeez. All right. Well, you gotta trust me. This show's good.
Right.
I don't know why we're having technical difficulties today. Oh my. Anyway, let me see if I can switch gears here or something. Yeah, let me just try to reload this.
Go ahead. While you reload that, I'm just going to let you know that Model Railroad has a Discord channel, discord.com. You guys can get on. And after show stuff, or just during the week when there's no shows going on, you want to talk model railroading. We're usually on. I think Mr. Holloman can display that in the Q&A. You guys can go check it out and stuff like that. We went all Hollywood on the graphics. We did. We spared no expense here at Model Railroading Live. It's Robert Holman puts his discord.gg and / and the whole thing. Maybe perhaps John can put that up on the screen there so they can all copy it. It is who Big Bill is talking to, not looking at. That is correct.
That's right. Well, you know what? Back with this silliness. Let's just talk. Let's just talk this out.
Yeah. Before I got cut off, and I hit the button. There's the thing for Discord right there on the channel, guys. Just copy it down. We'll hold it up there for a little bit so you guys can copy it. Before I disconnected myself, what I wanted to say was the modular itself is a 1x1, right? And
Yes.
and in doing so, I think it benefits not only the these are my personal rambling thoughts. It doesn't it benefits the armchair modeler, because if a guy is doing an armchair and he's always said, "Hey, I wanted to do this and I wanted," but the overwhelming of first, number one, the room, got to get the space, got to negotiate space, the cost, the feasibility of what I have. Maybe I don't have that much on stock and rolling stock and engines and whatever, but here's an opportunity. And then number two, for the existing model railroader who already has his existing layout, for the first half is, is the guy has the encouragement to say, hey, I can do a 1x1. It's not gonna. I'm not. What's the worst that can happen? It's just glowing. It's just making a box and putting a lid on it, foam, or extruded styrofoam or whatever it is that you want to use, and then go from there. And then the second part with the existing, if a model railroader already has an existing layout, but he wants to try something or build a scene or take a scene down, he can pre-build it on his 1x1 to see what it would look like, and then transfer that to the layout. So it's kind of twofold, and if someone says, well, it's not prototypical, model railroad, I mean, how much listen, I worked on the subway system in New York City. If you guys haven't trepped in 0-degree weather and walked through the tunnels of Manhattan in the middle of the night, that's as prototypical it gets. If you're sitting in your comfortable room with your cup holder and drinking coffee and running a prototypical railroad, not unless you have the dead rat in the corner and the all the craziness that goes with it and stuff like that. Then it's not really prototypical, but and stuff. But
that is so true, Bill. And one of the funny things is that with the Pennsylvania Railroad, for example.
All right, real quick, just looks like we got rid of the spinning circle. If you want,
oh yeah, let's
go back to the beginning, and I don't know what happened there. It wasn't on our end.
All right, but, let's give that a go then. Yeah, okay, perfect.
All right.
Yeah, Dwight at Northern Star says if some of you could throw a couple of bucks to the MRL patron, it probably can help. Oh, it certainly could.
Oh, yeah.
As you can see, you can look. I haven't eaten in days, so good. And Nissy J, and it's a good way to practice a technique before doing it on your own layout. Absolutely, so correct, Nissy.
Well, I would say there's only one wrong point there, though, Bill.
What?
It's not before you do it on your load, because the T-Track module is part of your layout.
Yes, it is
part of it. You got to think of it just a little bit differently. And in fact, actually, we're going to be talking a little bit later about a new show idea we had.
Right.
Where we have a lot of different themes that kind of build on that thought too. Where it's not like the normal make and take. You get something, you try it, you throw it in a drawer, you forget about it. It's like, no, all right, this can actually be part of your layout. You can actually build an interface to an existing layout, or if you don't have a layout, this could be your layout where you take it out to your friends. It becomes a social event, all sorts of good stuff. And
yes, Johnny.
I have no idea what's going on, but that slide's not working.
Oh, I hate that when that happens.
Y'all just gonna have to table dance it.
All right.
There you go.
We can do it.
We get our money's worth tonight. Start taking your dollar bills out.
It's raining. You're making it rain, Big Bill.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, essentially, the whole idea of T-Track, it breaks down to, and I'll just summarize the slides and I'll go through them really quick. The whole idea of T-Track is related to this whole idea of layout panels. That was an invention of A.C. Gilbert in 1958. And if some of our older viewers may remember something in the 60s, early 70s called All Aboard in that scale from Gilbert. It was a little system, and they had layout panels, which were essentially S-gauge T-track modules. They had 3 different types of panels. They had a curve, they had a straight, and then they had a switch. And essentially what you did is the whole idea was marketed as you could take this box, set it up, and in 2 hours have a complete layout. That's the way it was marketed. It wasn't really the T-track concept as we understand it today. It really wasn't that involved. But that was kind of like, as I said to Bill, if you look at T-track as like the mature civilization, the civilized version of the standard, then these Gilbert all aboard layout panels were like the cave paintings.
They were the forefront of the.
They were the forerunners.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too. You can look at the old patent documents they filed and all that stuff, and you look at it, and it's like, oh yeah, that's T-track. That really is T-track.
Right.
And then the slideshow takes a look at the different track products that we had. Starting with the old tube rail for Lionel folks too, and that was pretty good mechanically and electrically.
You mean the tubular tracks from
the tubular track from
right.
Lionel, right? Yeah, with the pins, the
right,
pins sticking out, right?
Right.
The 3 rail with pins, and well, first of all, you're using AC too, which is a little bit more forgiving of dirt than DC.
Right.
And then the second thing was it was just tough. You could put dirt on the track and the trail just run through it.
Yeah, right. You're right. Yeah, I remember.
It's pretty funny.
Right.
And then the next stage in the evolution was the regular sectional track we had, like from Atlas, where you had either steel or nickel silver or brass.
Right. I remember the brass.
The brass. Yeah, it started with the brass, and then it went to the steel, and then to the nickel silver, where we ended up, which is probably the best of the 3. Brass had a real nasty habit of oxidizing, getting dirty real quick too.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you're always cleaning the track.
Yep.
In fact, actually, you go to a lot of these shows and people, they can't give away the brass track, but I'll grab a couple pieces here and there, because if you're going to model an abandoned stretch of track or something like that, or an abandoned spur where you don't plan on running it, or even like the guardrails for a bridge, going across the bridge, you're going to paint those rails anyway. It doesn't matter if they're brass or they're nickel silver. You might as well use the cheap free stuff to do it. It's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same exact rail profile.
Exactly.
So don't throw away all your brass track. Now, I mean, you don't want to keep 5 boxes of it either. But
right.
Have a half a box of it around for just like guardrails or stuff like that. That's a real good use for that brass track. But the biggest problem with brass track was the rail joiners. The rail joiners was the weakness of that system, because when you put the track together and then you pull them apart and you put them back together, the rail joiners would stretch, and then with the movement of the train, they would stretch out place too.
True.
It would give up on the electrical and the mechanical strength, and you were left with some sort of wimpy little, thing that was just hanging on the edge of your rail.
Right.
And a lot of clubs like Strasbourg, they were always buying rail joiners all the time, and between every show, they were replacing basically a third of the rail joiners on their bridge tracks. And bridge tracks, well, that's another story, but we won't even go there with bridge tracks. That's one of the reasons why you love T-track, because you don't have any more bridge tracks to worry about.
Right.
But then in Canada, I was telling Bill too, it's interesting. In Canada, if you're selling a product for children and it doesn't work well, the Canadian government gets on top of you, and they're like, oh no, you can't sell this anymore unless it starts working right. And you'll see in Canada, they had all these stuff for sectional tracks, like little clips to keep the track together.
Right.
So the rail joiners didn't move. And they're kind of interesting little rubbery pieces that kind of set between the ties on the joint,
right,
just to stop them from moving. Yeah, they snap right in. And that was kind of like one way to deal with that situation with these rail joiners not really having that, the mechanical electrical strength that we really would like.
Right.
And then ultimately, when we became, we ran towards modular, we started running bus wires underneath with the feeder wires to the rail. So then it really didn't matter if the rail joiners were there or not,
Right.
Because we had a bus wire.
Right.
And then the next stage in the evolution would have been the track and roadbed all in one, like the Bachmann Easy Track, for example.
Right. Right.
But the Bachmann Easy Track has a glaring problem, and it's that big little plastic hook on the end, which
Right.
all you do is you look at it funny, it falls off,
Right.
and then
right.
you're pretty much stuck with sectional track that's on a roadbed, and the rail joint is still
plastic roadbed nonetheless.
The plastic roadbed, right? And the whole key to make the T-Track possible was when Kato introduced the Kato unijoiner.
Right.
The Kato unijoiners looks like a regular rail joint, but it's on top of a little plastic cassette, and the plastic cassette has a bunch of fingers. And I do encourage everyone to take the opportunity to Google the Kato unijoiner, take a look at it, because it's very, very clever. Because each of the Kato roadbeds has a little box underneath the rail where the plastic cassette fits in, fingers spread out, and it holds it in nice and tight. And then the rail joiner basically doesn't really get to move around too much. It was that little piece of technology that came up that really catapulted, really enabled the whole idea of T-Track to have the modules. We could put the modules down, and the rail joints would hold the modules together on the tables, so there wouldn't be too much play. I mean, there's some levelers on the T-Track modules, so there is some, you do have some adjustments to get the tracks right, but still, if somebody were to bump a table or something like that, it would stay together, because these Kato unit joiners do a great job mechanically, and you only really need to have a power connection at basically on one section of track, and it can run a decent sized circle because they're electrically good. It really allowed people to basically make these modules a lot more portable, and it allows for the easy setup. You don't have the bridge track. I was telling Bill that with the Strasbourg Club, nobody wanted to do bridge tracks. That was the worst job on layout. Schlepping the heavy modules off the truck, that wasn't as bad as doing the bridge track. Nobody wanted to do the bridge tracks.
Right.
But with T-Track, you have no bridge track. The track goes right basically to the edge of the module, and the Kato unit joiner does the hard work keeping the two modules together. You don't even have to clamp it or anything like that. You just do a little bit of leveling on the feet, get everything rough leveled, and they all snap together, and you pretty much can run for a couple days. Without incident.
Yeah, Possum Bayou says, I have T-Track modules, and like the Unitrack, I use ME code 55 flex and hand laid turnouts on my home layout.
Mm-hmm.
And John Arthur says that's a smart take on the brass track, because you can use it as scrap rail along the right of ways as well.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much you can do with it.
It's
free. It's free. Don't lose this opportunity. We pay so much for model railroading products that we want. Here's the detail part that's free. Don't pass it up.
Yeah. What do you think the aversion is to T-Track amongst model railroaders when you introduce it? Like when you're at the show and you have your T-Track, do you get a lot of like, oh yeah, I like the Godzilla and I like the Lego, but that's not real model railroading?
Well, I think if we look at the definition of model railroading, which is we're modeling a transportation system,
right?
It's a transportation system. It might not be a transportation system that's real, but it is a transportation system, so it is model railroading. So that's that might be semantics, but everybody's allowed to like everything. Like it's like the flying saucer in my cornfield. That's not your cup of tea, Bill, but you know what? That's fine, because everybody's different, dude.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's like, okay, I think especially with outreach it's more important to attract new people to the hobby. I mean, everybody hates Thomas and Chuggington and all those things, but a lot of kids like that.
Yeah.
So it pays to kind of go with what they know. I mean,
Right.
having a Thomas run around might be fun. Or, with T-Track, you could actually do, especially if there's like a multi-club T-Track event where, like at Amherst, they have a group of T-Trackers from the Northeast get together. And we have folks from, I don't know, Virginia down further south. And of course, New Jersey and New York and Connecticut and such, in New England. And they all get together. So there's different clubs. Each club brings their own different flavor, their own different take on model railroading. And it would be good to have like a scavenger hunt or something like that. Say, oh yeah, all right, can you find the Godzilla? Can you find the,
Yeah.
whatever?
Yeah, yeah, right. I got you.
For kids. And that's kind of like the other thing too, is T-Track. It might not, your take might be, it might not be wild railroading because, it's more geared towards kids. All right. But hey, I'm a big kid. All right. I'll admit that.
Right.
And the nice thing about T-Track is since it's lower than most layouts, most kids aren't, like standing on their tippy toes, knocking stuff over. They can actually see the trains. They can appreciate the trains.
Right. At a tabletop setting. Sure. You're right. Human City Junction Heat says the aversion to T-Track is that it's not prototypical, but non-model railroaders love it. Possum Bayou says the best part of T-Track is the modules for an on workbench for easy modeling work.
Absolutely.
And Wig Wag Workshop says just have fun and do what you love in the hobby. The key word here is hobby. And yes, Human City Junction Heath, he does live on the Northeast. Mike does live in the Northeast.
Yep. I do. I live in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. John Arthur says, that's a good thought, Possum. I've done some scenes on a styrene base on my bench than work them into the scene on the layout. So, it appeals to both, from the armchair to the more experienced modeler, where if a regular, like you said, a regular guy who has a, big monster empire and he wants to do something a little different, he can build himself a tabletop T-Track thing and just play with the idea of having different scenarios going on, or even add it to his already existing situation. With that said, Mike and I had, segue into this new thing. Mike and I had been talking, and then after we had talked on the phone for literally 2 hours one day, Mike sent me a thing in the mail asking about doing a new monthly series, and I was all over it like a dog on a pork chop. Because it's really good. It's called, we're going to start the new show. We're going to have a new opening show May 2nd of this year, next month. And it's not going to be who's Big talking to. Who is Big Bill talking to? I will be moderating it, but Mike will be generating most of the content. And it's a monthly series, and he's calling it Bursting the Plastic Bubble. So give us a little insight on what this is going to be like, or
Right.
just so that we can.
I think, Bill. I think we've been kind of dancing around what the new series is going to focus on. The whole night, pretty much. There's all these little segues that come here too. What is a prototypical model? What do people look for? How can you make yourself a better model? How can you push yourself out of the comfort zone? What's to stop you if you don't do everything perfectly? If you have OCD, what's to keep you motivated if you are distracted easily? What's to keep you motivated if something bad happens to a model, and then do you just put it aside for a couple months, then get back to it, or do you persevere or do you move to another section? And in all honesty, I think one of your users was his handle was I can't remember the name, but it's Model Railroad Journey, and it's exactly what this series is about. Is the model railroad journey. From my perspective, my model railroad journey, I started out with 3 key points. Yeah, the three things that I started with, what a model railroad should be. And I was, a kid. I was reading Model Railroader magazine, and I had my friends, and that was the extent of my model railroad world. So basically, there was a lot of weight given to what Model Railroader was telling me. And Model Railroader was telling me that I wanted a big basement empire. I had to build it all by myself. And I had to use plastic bottles, the whole thing. And that's basically the reason for the name, Burst in the Plastic Bubble, is actually, it's my growth as a modeler, getting away from styrene and looking at other materials such as wood, plaster. Plaster is great for doing brick buildings. Even plastic. I mean, I'm not saying, oh, don't touch plastic. No, there's a rule. There's a role for plastic. There's a role for wood. There's a role for plaster. There's all these opportunities with scenery. There's so many new scenery products available from Scenic Express. Even Woodland Scenics has revised their line. I mean, you look at, Woodland Scenics was great. In the 80s, they really kind of brought us forward from the old Lifelike green sawdust.
Right.
That was a quantum leap. And then you have super trees, which is kind of like the next evolution. And then people taking the super tree material and using that as leaves in different armatures to make different types of trees. You can really do a lot with that, and it looks really, really good. It also explores the whole idea of foreground buildings versus, or trees for that matter, or background buildings too. How much care you need to exercise with background buildings, how much effort you put in this, that, or the other thing. When is it good enough? If you make a mistake, is it fatal? I mean, do you toss the whole thing if you, God forbid, you're gluing it together and you put a glue fingerprint on it? Is it done? And with my journey as a youngster, if I had glue fingerprint, it was done. It was out the window. I had to wait, save like 2 weeks allowance to buy a new one.
Right,
to replace it.
right.
And it's like, if I could go back to my younger self, don't throw that away. There's this guy, John Allen. He does weathering. You could weather that. You could weather that away, or you could tell a story about it. You could put a poster over it or something. You could do something with that. And that's kind of what this series wants to look at. It wants to talk a little bit about my journey too, but also look at the different techniques that are available to us as model railroaders that we may or may not know of. It might strike a chord with some of the more advanced modelers. Certainly for the new modelers coming into the hobby, it's going to be enlightening. Hopefully it'll soften their learning curve. There was many times where, like I was telling Bill, I was negotiating for space for my layout before I even laid my first piece of track. I was negotiating for more space. And that's the craziness of this, because you basically need to have something to show as well. And you have something like T-Track where you can actually build a product one module at a time. You can build a layout one module at a time. Or even if you don't have that much space, you still want to participate in the hobby, you can join a T-Track club and you can take that one module and join it up with other modelers at a train show or what have you, and still run trains. In fact, you don't even need trains. All you need is that module, and that's enough to get you into the club and get you going in this journey.
Right. Well, it's a great idea. And what it's being called is bursting the plastic bubble. And we're going to add the first show on May 2nd. That's a Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And the first show is going to be the glue fingerprint in John Allen or how weathering saved my modeling. So I think it's going to be something that's going to be interesting. We're going to air the first show in May, and then we're going to take the summer off and come back in September, October, and November with another 3 shows of it. But as it says, you know, I think this is an important show only because it kind of like breaks the standard of what we had seen, and then this is no condemnation against railroad magazines such as Model Railroad or Model Railroad Craftsman or anything like that. But what we see in the magazines is something that is perpetuated on us to say this is the type of layout, and we get the idea and the notion that this is what we need, and this is what we want. And in some reality, it doesn't work that way. A bigger layout is a better layout. And as Mike said, plastic building kits were far more superior than any other kit on the market. And as he says in his opening statement to me in his email, he says he no longer considers these statements true. And he's right. As the older we get, Mike brought something out when he was a kid. He worked in a damp basement, so he couldn't do a cardboard, a mock-up because the dampness in the basement would ruin the cardboard. It would, render it useless, and stuff like that. So,
Bill, I have this great story too about the basement too. This is great. I was looking through an old fine scale modeler, and they were building cobblestones, and they were using old spices as scenery materials. Right, that's what they were using. These military modelers, they'll try everything.
Right,
and it's really good to kind of keep your kind of foot or your toe in the military modeler world just to see what they're up to. But it always pays to be a cautious follower. So anyway, I had this idea. Oh, I could use lentil beams to make cobblestones. So I take all these lentil beams and I glue them down on a piece of wood and make this nice little cobblestone street. And I put in some plaster between them. And I get it all looking nice. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. All right. And, stuff came up. And then 2 weeks later, I go back down to the basement after it's been kind of like really hot and muggy. And, the air conditioning was condensating a little bit. And I looked at that cobblestone street that was so beautiful when I got it done. And it started sprouting. So I mean, working in a non-temperature controlled basement is tough. It really is tough. But as a kid, that's what we had to deal with. With T-Track, for example, though, you basically have one module you can put in your room, you can put in your car, put in a closet, whatever you put on display if you want to. It gives you a lot more flexibility. And one of the funny things was, too, that I was able to negotiate a 2-week time frame where I had the dining room table tied up with T-Track. I got my wife to agree to let me use that for 2 weeks with T-Track modules because she basically was, around T-Track long enough to know how fast you can put it together and how fast you can break it back down. So
right.
That was probably the best compromise for a model railroad that I got. That's probably the best that anybody will ever get, in all honesty.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And plus the lentil cobblestone street. How old were you?
Oh, geez, I must have been like 16 or 17. Yeah.
So right there, you were thinking out of the box. Right there.
Yeah, I was trying to. I was like, yeah, let's give this a try.
Yeah, so right there. So hopefully with this new series, I'm really excited about it because we want a basement empire, but we have to, take what we have to take from what we want from this. If we don't have that basement or we don't have that spare room, and stuff like that. And I think this is a good introductory for new modelers to get introduced, and for us old timers here, old heads here that have been there, done that, got the T-shirt, sold the T-shirt, got the T-shirt back again.
There's always for 3 times as much. Yep.
So some of the ideas we have that Mike has come up with in bursting the plastic bubble, like he said, the first show is going to be the glue fingerprint in John Allen. or how weathering saved my model. And the second show, which we're going to start in September, is laser cut wood kits or craftsman, or how creative do you feel today? And the third show would be hydrocal kits and the plaster disasters. And the final show would be paper and cardboard kits, or the print it yourself templates, or stand-in, or loan layout star. And that's something we did with Barry Roger. Barry Roger recently, we had him on a couple of weeks ago, where he had the paper cutouts in his pizza box diorama that he's doing, and his track. And that was really, and he lit it up with LED lights and everything. So I'm excited about bursting the plastic bottle. We're gonna have the first show May 2nd, and at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We'll give you guys a heads up with that. And I think that's going to be a good show. I think that's someplace to, yeah. Derek Alexander says the box is what's holding your brain and the thoughts in it that limit your creativity. Yes, very true, my friend. Very true, Derek. Very true.
Definitely.
Very true.
Definitely. And that's one thing I noticed too, is my skill as a modeler increased exponentially when I started branching out into different styles of kits. And believe it or not, my modeling skills increased by making my wife lunch.
By making your wife lunch?
Yeah, because you got to realize, right, a lot of what you do is cutting, right? So precision cutting.
Yeah.
What do you do when you make lunch? You cut a lot of stuff up, dude.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, plus you're building goodwill. Never underestimate an opportunity to build goodwill with the wife, or she who controls your layout area.
That's great. That's great. That is so right. You are so right. That's a good one. I like that. Yep. So with that said, Mike, thank you so much. We'll have you on in about 2 weeks again on May 2nd, and we'll open up that show. But thank you so much for this. Is basically like an introductory to bursting the plastic bottle, and I want to thank you for being on. And I'm sorry for the glitches that we had, but technology is great when it works.
Oh, it is. But you're always welcome to see my YouTube videos. I think I do have a clinic on a camera car.
Oh, what's the name of that YouTube channel again?
It's called DCC Reanimator.
DCC Reanimator for all
I actually should do this Kata Unijoiner. I should actually put that into a video as well and put that on the YouTube channel.
John Arthur says, in regards to what Derek Alexander said, he said, absolutely. We can learn so much from other modeling media. Several of them are much bigger than our hobby as well. That's a lot of brain power innovating. CV Railroad in HO scale says, I talked my wife into the whole basement for a bay in the garage in the spare room. Way go. There you go. Yes, Human City Junction. He does have a YouTube channel. It's called, again?
DCC Reanimator.
DCC Reanimator
on
YouTube channel. Check out Mike Dettinger there. Mike, and once again, thank you so very, very much for being on and for doing the show. And we'll see you again on, what's the name of Mike's show is going to be? It's going to be Bursting the Plastic Bubble. May 2nd, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yep. Hope to see y'all there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And maybe we'll have less technical difficulties. Who knows? But if not, we'll get through it. We'll have a live demonstration. I'll go put blue fingerprints on a model or something. It'll be fun.
Robert Holloman says, please ask Mike to join Discord, and I absolutely will.
All right.
Well, we thank you, Mike, once again. And to you guys out there in model railroading land, tomorrow night, Thursday, April 21st, we will be having the Johnny's Train Talk show, where you guys can get involved, be a part of the show, or just be a part of the Q&A, whatever it is that you so desire to do. If you want to have a good internet connection with a good camera, you can join. John has the link in below, just before the comments and stuff. And that's the thing to Discord. and stuff like that. But in any case, May 2nd will be the show with Mike Dettinger called Bursting the Plastic Bubble. That's going to be on at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. From all of us here at Model Railroading Live, I want to thank you guys for joining in, because if you're not here, I'm just talking to dead air. And that's not fun because I don't get the feedback. But thank you so much for being a part of the show. Like I said, greatly appreciate your involvement and your communication and your questions, because they really make this show really jump and lively. Because, like I said, you're part of the show as well. So with that said, you be well, you be safe, but most of all, you be blessed, and we'll see you on the radio.